It may surprise or even shock you to hear what I'm about to say, but if you're seeing this video right now, it's no accident. There comes a time in certain people's lives when they slip beneath the radar, navigating the world in silence while leaving behind an undeniable mark. If you're one of these individuals, a chosen one, then you already know the power of invisibility. You move on without fanfare or lingering bitterness, yet the trace of your presence remains. It's not just an impression you've left on others. It's a fingerprint on their souls that never really fades. You might have once believed your low profile was a form of self-protection, but the truth is, those who knew you feel your absence more than they ever appreciated your presence. You've become the memory they can't quite shake, and the secret they're desperate to track down. If you sense that this resonates with your story, please give this video a like, subscribe for deeper insights, and comment 77 to let the universe know you're ready for the next phase of this remarkable journey. Chapter 1. When hiding becomes a form of freedom. You didn't set out to become invisible. In fact, you might have been the person who used to say yes to every invitation, smiling wide at gatherings, happy to be around friends. Back then, your spirit was open, and you extended yourself to the world with a kind of fearless enthusiasm. But life has a way of teaching us that wide open doors can let in a draft of competitions. Little by little, you noticed how people took advantage of your giving nature. They reveled in the warmth of your energy, but rarely gave back. Your presence seemed to fill a gap in their lives, yet when you needed that support returned, the room went quiet. It didn't happen overnight, this transformation into someone who vanishes at will. Perhaps it began with ignoring calls or messages when you sensed the conversation would only drain you further. Maybe you started to pull away from gatherings that felt shallow or toxic. Friends who once had easy access to your heart realized they were locked outside, and they couldn't figure out the new password. It was as if you slipped off stage mid-performance, leaving the rest of the cast wondering where you went. These small choices, repeated often enough, formed the blueprint for how you would disappear. Surprisingly, disappearing gave you room to grow. Away from critical eyes and incessant demands, you found the space to understand yourself. You learned that, in the quiet corners, you could hear your own inner voice more clearly. The external chaos, the gossip, the petty dramas, lost its power when you refused to be a participant. You discovered that solitude didn't mean loneliness. It meant freedom to explore the depths of your own soul. Though it felt abrupt to outsiders, for you it was the most natural evolution in the world. You recognized how to preserve your energy and invest it where it truly mattered. Yet despite how invisible you've become in certain circles, you remain an enduring enigma in the minds of those you left behind. They sense something extraordinary about you, an unexplained magnetism that lingers even when you're not around. Whether they openly admit it or not, many still keep tabs on you in subtle, almost desperate ways. Checking old photos, scrolling through timelines, asking mutual friends about your whereabouts. You've transitioned into a figure of fascination. You are their secret, the one they mention only in hushed tones or late-night confessions. While they may never acknowledge it directly, they feel the loss of your essence is an almost tangible absence. Choosing to disappear is not an act of cowardice, but a bold statement of self-respect. There is power in being able to remove yourself from any environment that drains your light. By stepping back, you reclaim dominion over your emotional and spiritual energy. Eventually, you realize this is more than just a strategy for dealing with unhealthy relationships. It's a way of life that allows you to remain genuinely connected to yourself. Even if the world tries to lure you back with false promises and shallow validation, you've seen too much and grown too strong to be fooled. The door is closed. The search for you continues, but you decide if and when it will ever lead them to you again. Chapter 2. The haunting power of your absence. Absence isn't always a void. Sometimes it's a presence that resonates louder than any actual voice. You've likely encountered people who left your life abruptly, only for you to realize how critical they were once they were gone. In your case, you're the one who quietly stepped away, and now they're replaying memories to understand what went wrong. There's a certain haunting quality to a chosen one's departure. It exposes the truth of how much you contributed to others' worlds in ways they never fully acknowledge. When someone senses your energy is gone, they come face to face with their own emptiness. They might recall those times you showed up for them, offering a ride when their car broke down, handing out advice during late-night phone calls, or just being a comforting presence in a chaotic moment. These are the details that people often overlook in the moment, but desperately cling to once they're gone. It's not just sentimentality. It's the sudden awareness that, without your emotional support, their life feels somehow less stable. What makes your absence so potent is that you never left with a flashy exit. There was no dramatic farewell or anguished confrontation. The quiet severance of your ties leaves them with questions that have no easy answers. Did they do something wrong? Did they hurt you? Or did they simply fail to appreciate who you were? In your silence, they often find themselves on an endless mental loop of self-blame or frantic justifications. This introspection, uncomfortable as it may be for them, is the inevitable result of experiencing someone who truly gave from the heart and then withdrew entirely. Of course, none of this means you wish ill upon those you left behind. In fact, you likely harbor no resentment at all. You just recognize that your empathy, your kindness, your loyalty, and all those qualities that once felt like a one-way gift needed better stewardship. It was no longer worth pouring your essence into hands that would not hold it carefully. The result, a life that may feel smaller to them now that you're gone, even if you never intended to cause them pain. If you are a chosen one who's mastered the art of disappearing, you know it's not about punishment, it's about self-preservation and aligned growth. Interestingly, a part of them may try to fill the hole you left with new distractions, perhaps a new circle of friends, romantic pursuits, or trivial achievements. But those band-aids don't offer genuine healing. The more they try to forget you, the stronger the pull becomes. You're the secret they don't mention to their new companions, the reason they sometimes stare off into space, haunted by a memory of your face or the sound of your laughter. They might shuffle through old photos or reread messages, longing for any sign that you still exist in their world. It is both a confession and a testament to the power of your presence. What they fail to grasp is that the door you closed isn't likely to open again in the same way. You've learned too much. You've grown too far beyond the old patterns. Should they ever find you, they'd be greeted by a version of you so evolved, you might as well be a completely different person. That's the nature of a chosen one's disappearance. You don't just vanish, you transform. And those who set out to locate you discover, to their profound surprise, that you're no longer the person they remember. Chapter 3. Recognizing the moment you decided to leave. One of the most profound shifts in your life came at the precise moment you realized you'd had enough. This realization didn't flash in a single dramatic encounter. Rather, it built gradually, like collecting small pebbles day by day, until you suddenly notice you're carrying a mountain. You likely recall certain events, a betrayal or a string of disappointments, that illuminated how little some people valued the gifts of your attention and warmth. When you finally step back to examine that emotional weight, you recognize the toll it was taking on your spirit. You may have found that this tipping point coincided with a personal revelation about who you truly were. For so long, you'd been the support beam for others, the one they leaned on without ever pausing to ask if you needed relief. Perhaps you believed it was your duty, or maybe you took pride in your capacity to help. But everyone has a threshold, and once you reached yours, the idea of continuing on the same path felt suffocating. In that instant, you chose yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of survival. When you made that quiet decision to walk away, you probably didn't inform them. Why would you? Words had lost their power to change the dynamic because you'd already expressed your needs countless times. Instead, you recognized that only action would reclaim your sense of self. With every social function you politely declined, every message you ignored, you reclaimed another fragment of your life. The more distance you established, the clearer your thinking became. Though it might have seemed abrupt to those around you, in truth, it was the most natural progression after years of subtle frustration. In the process, you discovered something beautiful. The world didn't end when you pulled your energy away. You realized that you could exist, thrive even, outside of those draining relationships. The promise of a quieter life, of spending your time on people and pursuits that genuinely mattered, proved far more enticing than any approval or acceptance you once sought. This newfound peace was your reward for having the courage to do what many people fear, stepping into the unknown without the crutch of familiar faces. Friends and acquaintances who once considered your presence a given suddenly felt the absence. They might have tried to pull you back, inviting you to gatherings with flowery promises of change if you gave them a final chance. You probably found their sincerity lacking. You'd already seen their pattern of words without action, so you quietly kept your distance. It wasn't about winning a game or asserting dominance. It was about protecting the newfound serenity that had begun to anchor you. The consequence of this journey is that you've become something of a legend in their eyes. They talk about you in hushed conversations, trying to piece together clues about your life post-disappearance. They wonder how you've managed to maintain your distance so effectively while also moving forward with dignity. Some might call you cold, but deep down they understand it's a boundary you had to erect for your own well-being. And through it all, you never wavered because you knew that moment of leaving was the most honest act of self-love you'd ever shown yourself. Chapter 4. Why They Can't Stop Searching. Even as you stride forward, building a life that reflects your true essence, they continue to look for you. It's an odd contradiction, isn't it? They weren't attentive enough when you stood right beside them, yet now they are consumed by the mystery of your absence. Sometimes what people cannot have becomes the most enticing quest. By refusing to be accessible, you became an unsolved puzzle, and human nature has an insatiable curiosity for the things it cannot easily grasp. They check social media or ask mutual contacts, hoping to glean scraps of information about your job, your whereabouts, or your relationship status. They might invent stories or latch onto rumors if it gives them some sense of where you've gone. The more you guard your privacy, the more intense their fascination grows. It's not just about curiosity, it's about confronting the reality that they once overlooked a connection that was authentic and irreplaceable. Now that it's out of reach, they want it all the more, though they can't quite articulate why. Part of the reason they can't stop searching is that your disappearance illuminated their own shortcomings. They can't help but wonder what lessons you learned that they missed. Sometimes it's easier for them to focus on finding you rather than focusing on what they need to heal within themselves. You left a void that not only marks a loss of closeness, but also highlights the emotional growth they neglected. Perhaps they quietly hope that discovering you again might give them a second chance, an opportunity to say what went unsaid or do what should have been done long ago. They might imagine you living in distant cities or forging new, vibrant friendships. They conjure up stories of you flourishing in ways they never could have predicted. In fact, some might even feel a tinge of envy at the thought of you thriving without their involvement. Deep within, they know they had an opportunity to nurture the bond, and their neglect turned it into a precious relic of the past. The realization that they no longer have your trust gnaws at them, leading them to pick through old messages or photos for comfort. Each nostalgic artifact only fuels their determination to uncover the path you've taken. The irony is that you're not hiding for the sake of being found. You simply embrace the lifestyle that ensures your peace. In stepping away, you allowed space to develop your talents, explore uncharted passions, and nurture relationships that genuinely reciprocate your warmth. You wanted to live without the weight of external chaos. While they scrambled to piece together your puzzle, you're out there expanding your horizons, possibly in ways you once only dreamed of. Their search might continue indefinitely, but for you, it's simply a footnote in the story of your self-transformation. What they failed to grasp is that searching for you in the external world will never yield the reunion they hope for. The person they knew has evolved. Even if they manage to track down your location or your social media, they'll find someone who no longer fits neatly into the old roles. You've rewritten the script of your life, and anyone who wants to be part of this next chapter must learn to respect and adapt to your boundaries. That's the price of reconnecting with someone who's truly chosen themselves after years of being overlooked. Chapter 5. The Strength in Silent Reinvention. Sometimes the most powerful transformations happen quietly, without the fanfare of public declarations. You've rebuilt your sense of self. This reinvention didn't require announcements on social media or dramatic confrontations. Instead, it thrived in moments of personal solitude, where you had the freedom to re-examine your life's purpose. You tried out new hobbies, discovered hidden talents, or even embraced a career change that better aligned with your strengths. While others might have expected you to come crawling back, you were busy exploring corners of your potential that they never knew existed. In your silent journey, you recognize that reinvention isn't a one-time event, but an ongoing process. The distance you created from the old circle gave you a vantage point to see clearly what you did and didn't want for yourself. You realized you no longer had to fit into anyone's limiting expectations. Whether it was a passion for writing, painting, or a newfound interest in holistic healing, you let curiosity guide you. Each day, you dared to show up for yourself in ways that made your spirit feel alive. One of the hidden benefits of disappearing is that it removes you from the constant chatter of opinions. Without the noise, you could finally hear your own heartbeat guiding you toward a path that feels authentic. You might have taken on new challenges, learning a language, launching a small business, or dedicating yourself to fitness goals. In these endeavors, you experienced growth that went beyond skill building. It touched your self-esteem. By focusing on the present and what you can create, you gradually replaced any sense of loss with excitement about the future. People who remember your past self might be stunned if they see you now. You're more confident, less prone to overthinking others' judgments, and more certain of your value. They might barely recognize the person they once knew because you're no longer the giving soul who tolerated endless demands. Instead, you've become discerning, learning to allocate your energy only to relationships and pursuits that uplift you. This selective engagement isn't about arrogance. It's about maintaining the well-being you fought so hard to achieve. Though your transformation remains mostly unseen by those who lost you, you don't mind. You never went on this path for validation. You did it to reclaim the life you deserve. What started as a quiet withdrawal from draining environments became a full-fledged awakening of self. And this, perhaps, is one of the reasons they keep searching for you. They sense the magnitude of the shift, even if they can't fully articulate it. In the void you left, they can almost feel the outlines of the powerful person you've become. What you learn in this stage of reinvention is a profound compassion for yourself. You no longer shamed yourself for needing space or for cutting ties with those who weren't beneficial to your growth. If anything, you wonder why it took so long to make such a liberating move. Slowly but surely, your narrative centers on what makes you fulfilled instead of who you can please. The strength you cultivated in silence stands as a fortress around your spirit. Anyone who tries to enter must approach with respect and authenticity, or they'll find the gates locked. Chapter 6. Unbreakable Bonds with the Right People. While you vanish from circles that didn't value you, it doesn't mean you live in total isolation. In your absence from one realm, you likely found or deepened connections in another. These are the people who welcome you just as you are, offering mutual growth rather than endless taking. You learn to treasure those who see your quiet nature not as indifference, but as deliberate self-preservation. They understand that your time and energy are precious and never demand more than you willingly offer. These relationships might be fewer in number, but they're stronger than any you've experienced before. Whether you reconnected with a dear old friend or formed new bonds with kindred spirits, you discovered how uplifting it feels to be around people who genuinely respect your boundaries. They don't question why you sometimes disappear into solitude. They celebrate your need to recharge. They know that when you do resurface, you bring insights and an emotional depth that few people can match. In these connections, you no longer feel the pressure to explain yourself. Silence can be shared without awkwardness, and your revelations are met with open-minded curiosity rather than skepticism. These friends or loved ones often help you refine your new path, encouraging you to explore your interests and keep evolving. They don't fear your disappearance because they trust it's part of how you process the world. This mutual respect forms an unbreakable foundation, a stark contrast to the shallow ties you left behind. Just as you have become selective about who has access to your life, these people too choose you for a reason. They sense the authenticity of your journey. They see that you're committed to personal growth and that your quiet strength is rooted in genuine experience rather than empty posturing. It's not that you've become invincible to pain or heartbreak, but you've learned how to navigate challenges with grace. This draws them closer, inspiring a shared sense of trust that wasn't possible in your previous circles. It's also likely that you've established certain rituals with these close allies. Perhaps you have weekly catch-ups that enrich your heart rather than drain it. Or maybe you embark on spontaneous adventures that remind you of life's simple joys. The point is, these new or deepened relationships affirm that disappearing from the wrong people frees you to appear more fully for the right ones. Your circle becomes a small, shining constellation of souls who truly understand what it means to grow together. This sense of safety and uplift doesn't just benefit your relationships, it spills over into every aspect of your life. When you're around people who celebrate your journey, your creative energy flows more naturally, and your aspirations feel more achievable. It's as if the emotional barriers that used to hold you back have been removed. Freed from the weight of pretenses and unreciprocated obligations, you can finally channel your focus into building the life you've always deserved. You've seen how quickly false friendships can crumble, so your loyalty is now reserved for those who stand with you through life's ebbs and flows. Chapter 7. Entering a new era beyond their reach. Choosing to master the art of disappearing has carried you into a future nothing like your past. What began as self-defense matured into a devotion to solitude, authentic connection, and full autonomy. External expectations no longer bend your spine. You watched how people reacted when unlimited access vanished and learned that freedom has a price. Those who once undervalued you now search frantically, but you are no longer available on their terms. This era is defined by clarity in work, creativity, and spirit. You move with the steadiness of inner conviction. Old memories still surface, yet they're mile markers, not roadblocks. Objects fading in the rear view, while you accelerate toward a horizon brimming with promise. Occasionally, someone catches a glimpse of your new life, an unexpected cafe encounter, a glowing update online. They reach out, but their words feel thin against the reality of who you become. You've outgrown their earlier image of you, and only genuine respect can reopen the door they once took for granted. Now you stand as guardian of your peace and proof that transformation begins the moment you exit spaces that failed to honor you. The scars you carry broadcast courage, not weakness. Disappearance granted you the silence to rediscover your voice. That voice now steers every decision. Where you go next is yours to choose. You may dive deeper into untapped creativity or weave talents into a purpose-driven calling. You may nurture a tight-knit circle founded on mutual respect. Whatever path unfolds, it is propelled by self-awareness and an unwavering desire to remain free. Those still searching must accept a hard truth. You've slipped beyond the reach of their old habits. You now inhabit a realm where entry is granted only to those who see and value your true essence.